Whenever you are trying to prepare a schedule or roadmap, the very first step by default is to plan, irrespective of your general life activities or any methodology or technical activity. The plan basically gives you a foundation or basically a small structure or detailed structure sometime that how exactly you're going to proceed. At the same time, we do understand not every time the plan makes you successful, but requires a little bit of tweaking. So let's understand a little more today about how test planning works. Hello friends and greetings for the day. Welcome back to another episode of Testing in Nutshell. This is Neeraj Kumar Singh and today we are talking about test planning. But of course, when it comes to test planning, the very first and important thing is to understand that what is planning all about. Now, when you talk about determining any activity or set of activities as a process, the planning becomes a very important aspect for you. No matter, we do understand that plan cannot be done for an activity which will be happening down the line after 6 months because you do not know the constraints, you do not know the current situation or probably the situation what you may have in future as you proceed with your activities. But yes, a plan gives you a heads up that what is that you need to do and how you need to achieve that. And that's why the plan is actually important to set up your mind and put that human psychology that this is what we are oriented to and this is what we want to achieve at the end of the day. At least it gives you a basic structure that this is how you're going to proceed and what factors will influence it and what factors will break that. And that you are prepared for it. So the most important thing when it comes to test planning is similar way. It is a plan for the entire software testing lifecycle where you define a lot of activities, lot of schedules, lot of roles and responsibility at a very early phase of software lifecycle. Now during this particular phase or important activity of the testing lifecycle, a test manager is the responsible person who outlines a plan for the entire testing lifecycle, where the major activities involve defining a niche objective for that particular lifecycle, that what is that you want to achieve at the end of the lifecycle ends. Mainly, we are also talking about the scope of testing, that what is covered as a part of this lifecycle and what is not covered from the list of the requirements. Remember team, not everything what is given to you as set of requirements will be covered in a single life cycle. A lot of things are being pushed for the next release where maybe the details are not complete or may not have sufficient information to process them. So when it comes to planning again, we do define something called as exit and entry criteria or entry and exit criteria, basically the right order of. When you talk about entry and exit criteria, these are actually universal. They can be used at any point of time, maybe for an entire project, maybe for life cycle of testing, or even for the test levels. These are basically a checklist which generally prepares you to understand that when you can say that you are ready to start and when you can say you are ready to stop or you are done with those activities which you were supposed to do before you can stop testing. So yeah, we are talking about the testing life cycle's entry and exit criteria. In Agile methodology, the same thing can be referred to as definition of ready and definition of done, which is similar to entry and exit criteria's checklist, where you just define that how these things will be met and then you start with something. And it's very simple and easy to understand. When it comes to your trips or social events, you do create a to-do list or checklist that what all things do you want to carry with you when you want to go to the vacation. And that's only to make sure that we are not forgetting anything before we get into the activity. Additionally, we also define a lot of matrices to be measured as a part of the monitoring process. The monitoring process is really important to gather the ongoing activity statistics and define if there is anything else required to do to overcome any kind of deviation or barriers. Sometimes you may expect a deviation between your schedule and the one which is happening right now, and thus it requires a consistent monitoring to define a control action or implement a control action. So all these things will be a part of the test planning itself. Additionally, you also decide on what kind of tool supports you will be taking. Probably the tool supports are there for different activities which you find right from the test management. You talk about configuration management, defect management, requirement management, entirely test management, or any kind of automation tools like functional, non-functional, performance, security, and many other things like that. So as a part of test planning, you determine whether you will be going with automation or not. If yes, how much automation? And then answer that, how will you automate it? What tools will be required? Do you have sufficient infrastructure to support it? Or do you have to do additional steps for that? So these are some of the major activities which generally takes place as a part of test planning. And of course, there are a lot of details available and it may vary depending on the project, depending on the product characteristics, as well as the organization policies. It might depend on what kind of factors does the product basically involve. And based on that, your planning may have a different orientation. You also determine different roles and responsibility, scheduling of certain activities like test design, test execution, how long will it happen, and many other related aspects of the same. So it's very important and crucial when it comes to test planning that how exactly it is done. So that's all from this particular episode, team. I hope you really enjoyed understanding more about test planning activities, and we'll be looking forward to have some more interesting facts like that with respect to testing. Should you have anything else, feel free to comment below. I'll be there to address your queries and answer them well. Till then, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep understanding the context. Thanks for watching the video, team, and happy learning.